Welcome, everyone. And my voice is already going out. This is what happens when we talk for like an hour before the show. I'm just already just railed. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I am your host, Jed Porto. Joining me, as always, is the glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, how the hell are you?
Good. What up, people?
We are talking triggerings. Ooh, the triggering. Oh, that would be a great event name for XPW.
The triggering.
If Rob Black takes that, I want royalty rights. So I have the wrong image on. So we got some interesting stuff to talk about today. First and foremost, we're talking XPW. Never thought we'd be talking about XPW and Rob Black, but here we are. I didn't even think XPW and Rob Black were still in wrestling. But, you know, what do I know? Apparently not much. So we're going to be talking about that. Apparently, the Halloween Havoc card pissed a lot of people off. So I don't know how I feel about that. Although Desmond Xavier, I think that's his name. I'm so confused with some of these name changes. He apparently won the North American title.
Yeah, Wesley.
Wesley, yeah, there it is. One of those is right. So that's pretty dope. And there was a
Mhm.
great photo of him hugging Shawn Michaels after the match, and that's great to see.
Mhm.
And of course, the Rascals congratulated him on social media, and you love to see that. But
Yeah.
we're not talking about Halloween Havoc. I mean, we could. Let's see if Mandy Rose wore anything worth talking about. I think we should do a NXT red carpet. I think that'd be dope.
NXT red carpet.
Yeah, we just talk about what they're wearing. The do's and don'ts of wrestling attire.
I mean, we talking about who wore it best coming out of Halloween Havoc. It's all Shotzi all night long.
Really? Well, I found an image of Mandy Rose from, I guess, last year's Halloween Havoc because she was a brunette then. But I kind of dig it. This year's kind of looks like she was cosplaying as Scarlett Bordeaux. So like, I don't know. That's not that impressive. Let's see if the Shotzi lives up to it. Shotzi. Was she wearing like a devil suit? Is that what you're vibing with, Marcus? Her devil suit?
No, she actually had a nice little Beetlejuice number. I'm not really into the whole devil thing.
All right, the devil suit was from a different year. Yeah, I can't do Beetlejuice. I just think of Michael Keaton, and that's in like an automatic killer. So like, yeah.
I get it. Just start mouthing off. When I get nuts off, split right down the center.
Keaton, I love you. You're great. You're great. You're great. You're great. But yeah. So, did you see Halloween Havoc? Any thoughts on it before we get into the XPW stuff?
North American Championship match was good. Ambulance match had some tough moments, but it was that show. Well, it basically was a one match show, and that was about that triple threat between Braun Breaker before you say it,
Breaker.
um, Ilya Dragunov, and the former Peter Devlin, something McDonough. Yeah. So yeah, they stole the show. Those guys, those are some tough boys. Tough boys.
I assume Breaker won.
Yes, Breaker retained.
That's always good. So, when did SportsCenter get into the meme business?
I don't know, but those sports accounts are getting real good. With the they did a like a league wide thing, like because the league can't obviously the NBA season is back, and they did like a full house intro
Mm-hmm.
with the basketball thing. But yeah, I don't know how they don't. Our sports center don't have a mean thing. All these Stephen A. Smith clips and Shaq and Charles Barker being on the same show, and not to mention Shannon Sharp while not on Sports Center, like just talking sports in general. So
Well, SportsCenter tweeted out a meme of Wolverine looking at the photo, and it's Tom Brady with all the rings because this Wolverine has a Patriots hat on, and apparently the Patriots got their asses handed to them.
That meme has been so bastardized,
It
but I
has.
get it. Yeah.
Calm down, computer. You don't need to be that loud. Apparently, both Patriot quarterbacks look like ass, which is hilarious and terrifying at the same time. But we're not here to talk football or basketball. As I look depressingly at Utah losing their first, I'm about to say match, first game of the year. No, we're talking about XPW because apparently that's 2022. That's where we're at right now. It truly is Halloween. So I don't know who won on this show. I don't know who the matches were on this show. Basically, all you need to know is XPW is owned by Rob Black. Rob Black used to be a videographer and owner of, let's just say, adult consumable media. He's a pornographer. He was either married, dating, and or in a relationship with, can we say legendary porn star? Is that a thing?
Yeah, who is
Legendary
it?
porn star Jasmine St. Clair of the late 90s, early 2000s.
I don't know her, but I don't doubt it.
Well, let's put this way. I'm trying not to get too offensive. We will describe her genre as one size fits all.
Look at my diplomatic friend.
Multiplicity. Let's see. 9 Men Out. I'm trying to think of other movie titles that can work with this.
Angels in her
Siege?
outfield? I don't know. Oh, like The Siege. The Siege. The Raid.
There it is. That's another one. Like there's a lot. They're predators. Aliens? That one doesn't work as well. She enjoyed the company of many men at the same time.
Infinity War.
Ah!
I'm pretty sure that noise was made.
I'm gonna be thinking of all the titles that could work for this as the show continues. Because she got around. So this is who he is. Like this is the type of people he runs with. So no one should have been surprised, and yet everybody was because this is the internet. That Drake Younger, formerly Drake Wirtz, former WWE referee, but before he was a WWE referee, he was a very famous, and I use famous loosely when it comes to death matches, but he was a very famous deathmatch wrestler who was very known for doing hardcore drugs. I think he did like meth. It's like, issues. He got clean, went to the WWE, and it was like a big success story. And even like Swisher was like, this is great. He got sober. He went to WWE. He's a referee now. Like, this is a great comeback story. And it was. It really was. Then he went full QAnon. And he took Bobby Fish with him. So now he's back to wrestling. It's been, I don't know, 6 years, 7 years, maybe even 8 years since he last wrestled. And he's in XPW. He's going back into the deathmatch hardcore scene, I guess. And he took on somebody by the name of Hardbody. Now, I've heard different stories of who Hardbody is. I don't know anything about him. But somebody said that he may be transgender. If that's the case, this adds a little more context to the situation. But if it's not the case, then I feel like we're overreacting. And keep in mind, I'm not a Drake Wirtz guy. I'm not a Drake Younger guy. I don't like him. I don't like his views. I don't like his policies, yada, yada, yada. But he came out and he delivered a promo where he basically said, like, I'm going to make wrestling great again, which is something that we've heard countless times before over the last 6, 7 years. Corey Graves' brother literally does an entire gimmick around that entire thing down in Mexico. Sam Adonis. So It's not new, and I don't think it's overly offensive. It's just kind of a meme at this point. So, like, he says that he talks about how he's the greatest deathmatch wrestler ever, and how he made it at WrestleMania, but he failed to qualify it and say that as a referee. Then he goes on to say that he's got more championships in deathmatch wrestling than Hardbody has pronouns, and apparently that's where all the hubbubaloo kicked off. I would like to say that he went even further, but no, that was it. He kind of mocked the idea of pronouns. Pronouns are pretty, mockable. When you got people doing demon pronouns, I think we've gone too far. Personal opinion. I don't believe in mocking somebody for how they want to present themselves, let's be clear. And he didn't mock anybody for how they presented themselves. He just said that he had more titles than pronouns. It was a loose dig at a mostly conservative with a mostly conservative fan base. It's not your cup of tea, and I would expect most people who are pretty progressive wouldn't be going to an XPW show in the first place. So I really don't get the outrage, but maybe it's not my outrage to get. I can admit that, but I can also say that I'm not outraged by this, and I'm a guy who very recently pointed out that Bobby Fish is QAnon. Even to the point where he responded, not necessarily to me, but to other people, that, he's like, I'm not QAnon. I just helped my friend Drake Younger out, who held an event that was hosted by QAnon. And now they assume that I'm QAnon. It's like, I don't know, Bobby, you are the company you keep. So, like, I don't know, keep better company. So when Drake Younger said this, I'm not inclined to defend the guy. But I'm also not going to jump on a craze just because it's trendy. I don't think he said anything overtly offensive. He was obviously being a little antagonistical. But then again, have you ever seen super politicized aisles at this point? Like, left, right, doesn't matter. They're both creeping into the same territory with their behavior. So it's one of those things where, like, unless you're in the middle, like, everything's going to be offensive to someone. I'm just not going to be easily offended. And I don't know if this is something to be angry about, truthfully. It's not transphobic to put a line about having more titles than pronouns. It's douchey. I think he's a douche. I don't think we're going into the territory of attacking marginalized citizens. However, I feel like that's a leap. And listen, I'm 36, man. I can't leap that high anymore. Some people are stretching for this one, and I don't stretch that deep anymore either. Marcus, I am curious as to how you feel about this, even though I already kind of know because we had this conversation before. But I'm curious as to how you feel about it now with more context of the situation.
Yeah, with more context, man, I echo your sentiments. It's not something I'm outraged by, but like you said, maybe it's not an outrage to participate in. Somebody's, our sunny day is somebody else's, storm, what have you. So, we get it from that perspective, but, again, so much of the outrage that we see today, particularly online, is so selective. And oftentimes, and so forced. Oftentimes, people, just see something that has nothing to do with them, not aimed at them in any way, and they allow themselves to be gaslit because they reach for outrage under the anonymity of being an ally, and then now they join the mob, if you will, burning somebody at the stake. So, like I said, I know people have said far worse, and I know it's far worse things that could have been said. But I guess there's levels to everything, and I guess for a lot of people that was one of their levels. So,
Do you remember this past summer during the Little League World Series when people got outraged because a bunch of white kids were putting cotton in a black kid's hair? Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's the headline. Do you know the story?
No.
So the story starts off with a white kid, and he and this black kid are on the same Little League team, and they're both fans of this pitcher who apparently had a white mohawk. So the white kid puts cotton in his hair to have a faux white mohawk like this player they both like. The black kid sees and goes, I want the same thing, so his teammates help him out. Then it becomes an outrage because they're putting cotton in a black kid's hair, and how dare they, that's racist, but they're helping his teammate embody a look that he wanted to have. So there's outrage, but there's no context. And now all of a sudden, like, the story dies. It's like, oh, wait, they were doing a nice thing for a kid who wanted to look like one of his favorite players. Where's the outrage? Once you know the full context, there's no outrage. And I feel like when people do these kinds of things, like where they just kind of, they go, trigger warning, transphobia, most people don't even bother, like, listening to it. Like, I listened to it 9 times thinking, like, is there something I missed? Is there words he's using I don't understand? And it's like, no, it's just about him saying he's got more titles than pronouns. That's the whole transphobic mark. And I'm just sitting going, that's not transphobia. That's just a bad joke. And I feel like we've gotten to a point where people don't care about the truth anymore. They just want to be angry. And to be fair, I feel like we've been there for 7 years. I don't feel like we just got to that point. We've been living in that point for a while now.
Yeah, it's to a point you made, a show a while ago. Not like it's not like we just new to talking about this outrage culture. We've talked about it ad nauseum. But feels like anyway. But you made a point about this whole thing, this outrage thing, kind of being a pendulum. And it's swinging in the hardcore direction of like peak outrage, and then eventually it'll swing back. And I think I had added to your point about that being like, so many people have seen this stuff for so long, have not said nothing, or have been ignorant to the deep offensive context that was actually happening. And now when they see anything in relation to stuff that could be perceived as mildly offensive, it's the overcorrection, because it's like they're trying to make up for lost time of not, speaking out on stuff, specifically speaking out when, in so many different contexts in our society right now. So over the last, few years. So yeah, it's just a deep overcorrection to that thing about the cotton thing. That could have been, that, again, the intention was good, but I could see how somebody could see that as, unintentional or racial ignorance when it comes to the cotton narrative around the whole thing. Because there was this one story I forgot, and maybe you came across it too, not too many years ago, where a teacher actually took a class on a cotton picking trip.
Oh, no.
And it had some black students in the class. Yeah. So, like I said, there's levels to a lot of this stuff. I think with that story, like you said, I don't think it was intentional. I get how people could see that and then look at racial overtones with that and perceive it as like, oh, the white kids knew it, and, because it was under the guise of helping the kid with the hair situation, they got to infuse a racial element to it. And a lot of times, a lot of this stuff is projection. A lot of people don't want to admit it, but a lot of people just, again, they're trying to make up for past stuff, because a lot of people have either seen or participated in a lot of stuff and have not checked themselves on it or spoken out about it, and it sucks. But I think it's what we try to do when we tackle these stories here anyway. You got to attack stuff on an individualized basis. Everything's not everything to everybody, but not every situation is DEFCON 5.
And I agree. Like if you look at, especially with the hair story, if you look at that out of context and you just see it, I could see the outrage. Like I can understand people being upset, but that's why you have to get the story. Because when you get the story, it changes everything. Like you cannot just, knee jerk every time you see a headline, because otherwise you're gonna get water on the knee. That's something I learned from Operation. I don't know what it is, but it sounds like something you don't want to have. And I feel like with any story, whether it's race or politics or wrestling or whatever, there's more to the story than the headline, and there's more to the story than the breaking news portion. You got to stick around long term. You can't just be like, oh, breaking news, well, that's all I needed to know. No, there's going to be far more, and you need to keep coming back to it. Otherwise, you sound ignorant. And I feel like that's where you and I kind of always find similarities with one another because we always kind of take that middle ground approach of like, all right, but what's the context? Because there's always more to something. And I feel like when people like just lash out, it's not conducive. But then on the other side, like as you mentioned, like some people are selective. You know, like when we talk about bad people, especially in pro wrestling, it's bountiful. Like, and so many people make excuses. Like Seth Rollins fucked a Nazi. Like, I'm not being hyperbolic. I've long said there's only two reasons anyone should ever own Nazi paraphernalia. The first, you took it from a dead Nazi. If you were in World War II and you shot a Nazi dead and like, I want a trophy of killing this dead Nazi, doing my best Brad Pitt version of Nazi, then cool. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, no, you just killed a bunch of Nazis. You want to take one of their emblems, you know, and be like, I killed 32 Nazis. I took their scalps. All right, cool. You do you. The other people who own Nazi paraphernalia, Marcus, I'm sure you're going to be surprised by this, are Nazis. Fucking mind-boggling. Nazis own Nazi paraphernalia. Oh my god. And Seth Rollins dated a girl who was in her 20s, meaning she could not have served in World War II, who owned Nazi paraphernalia. Seth fucked her in the bed that had Nazi emblems. Nobody seems to care about that. We're all like, oh, no. And it's like, are we missing something? Like, Bray Wyatt is accused of abandoning, I think it's like 3 or 4 children. But no, we need Firefly Funhouse back. Randy Orton, on more than one occasion, has been accused of assaulting women, harassing women, or worse, to people who work backstage. And nothing. Selective outrage. But CM Punk has a meltdown, and Tony Khan's a terrible person. It's like selective outrage. Here we are again. There's very little consistency, Marks. And that's something I try to be. I try to be consistent. I don't want to sit here and attack Drake Younger for something I don't conceive or perceive as offensive. Just dumb. Because when my favorites get put in the spotlight, I want to have the same objectivity. So that way, if I say, I don't think they did anything wrong, my opinion carries weight because I am consistent. That way, if I do say, yeah, so-and-so real done fucked up, you go, hoo, if he's saying it, then he really did. And I feel like too many people want to be on the right side of an issue, and they're not really ready to sit there and defend why they feel differently from the masses.
Yeah, and maybe I'm not thinking the word is right. Sometimes being on the right side of the issue has nothing to do with you being right.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people just they can't imagine that because a lot of times people just they argue so they can be right. They get into debates just so they can be right. And hearing and listening and understanding goes out the window, and that's ultimately where the real foundational truth lies. But that's you can't sit down and make peace or have any type of real meeting on the minds with somebody who's committed to misunderstanding you anyway. So it's one of them weird things. Like you said, we try to come with the same energy here. We're fans of Jordan Grace, but that situation she got herself on Twitter with Benoit, that was she shitted and then stepped in it, and that was on her. That was again. Was this the hill you needed to die on today? Wait, was it?
So yeah, and to your point, a lot of people kind of put their self-importance, their identity into their arguments. So they're no longer just arguing a point; they're trying to justify who they are. And at that point, it doesn't matter what you say. They've lost that argument because they've put way too much into it.
They triggered themselves and then projected the triggering onto you. So they could come to their defense, so they could feel like, for once, I'm standing up for myself, even though this issue that I'm standing up for has no relation to me at all. It's a weird time, man. Weird times we're living in.
So let's show off our ability to be diplomatic. because I defended the Drake Younger promo because I've sat here and said I don't think there's anything wrong with saying a line that consists of I have more championships than you have pronouns. It's a dig. I don't think it's offensive. This is where I'm going to change my tune, however. Because on the same show.
Hold my beer.
On the same show. I don't know who was in the main event. I don't know the name of the referee. But I do know that Necro Butcher, another icon of the deathmatch genre, and former Ring of Honor star, for those of you who want to try to disown him, he was a Ring of Honor star. He did a main event match, and I thought Necro Butcher retired due to health reasons. So, like, I don't even know why he's in this match. But he wins this match over this large gentleman, thanks in part to a Hispanic man who's a referee. And he was apparently calling it right down the middle until 50-year-old retired porn star Jasmine St. Clair came to the ring and convinced him to turn on the good guy. So the referee betrays the good guy, and I apologize for not knowing the name of the other wrestler. So he betrays the good guy, thanks to Jasmine St. Clair's persuasion, and Necro Butcher wins. And then the Hispanic referee dons a MAGA hat and cuts a racially slurred-filled promo on his own people, talking about they're not a real American, but where Jasmine St. Clair, Necro Butcher, and the Hispanic referee are real Americans, and he uses a bunch of Hispanic slurs, Mexican slurs. And I'm just sitting here going, you know, I didn't tolerate that Excalibur bullshit. I'm not tolerating this shit either.
Oh my god, man.
Like, this is like Speedy Gonzalez turning in his cousin Slowpoke to the U.S. Immigration Service. Like, what are we doing?
It's like he tried to channel Eddie Guerrero and then went immediately racist. Like, oh, that vato wetback saying, like, what?
So, like, Eddie teaming up with JBL to keep Hispanics out of America. That's what this is. They're both kicking people out across the border. And I saw this market. I'm like, whoo. Like, this was a scene.
It was even worse because this dude can't not be who he is. It's like he didn't even, like, I don't even know if he could have channeled the American accent fully. Like, it just, for somebody that did an anti-Mexican thing, he was too Mexican. It was too much Mexican flair on the anti-Mexican rhetoric.
So basically, everyone was calling him Carlos Mencia in the comments.
Oh, that's hilarious. I'll tell you one thing. So ain't Gabriel Iglesias. I'll tell you that.
Right? So, like, this is the same show, by the way, of the Drake Younger promo. It's like Rob Black really went for it on his Halloween-themed show this week. So, yeah, don't use racism in promos in 2022. I don't know. That was kind of the way to go in 1982. Like, the whole reason WCW put the belt on Ron Simmons because they wanted to look progressive, and they had a guy they thought was a hot babyface on the rise. So they're like, we can kill two birds with one stone. We can be progressive, and we can have a hopefully successful title reign with a new star. Of course, Ron got over on his first night, but he never had the promo skills to be a main headliner guy, and that was obvious from his title run. But then, like, you think about, like, 10 years later, Triple H was saying to Booker T, people like you don't beat people like me. And I'm sitting there even at, like, what was I? I was like 16. I was going, I don't know, man. That seems pretty fucking racist. And then, of course, Booker's supposed to win so he can prove that, people like him do beat people like Triple H, And it's like, no, Triple H pedigrees him, takes 30 minutes, and then covers him and wins. It's like, damn. They really went full races on that whole angle. So, like, 20 years ago, we knew this shit wasn't smart. And then we had Excalibur cutting a promo where he was dropping, racial epithets about black people. And then, we have this nonsense. It's like, guys, using racial slurs doesn't get you over. It just makes you an asshole.
Yeah, and then you don't want to go full ECW events with it.
No. That wasn't even ECW Vince. That was like what, 2005 Vince? Wait, was it during 2007? No, it couldn't have
No,
been.
yeah, because that's when he was wearing the all black with the do rag.
Right, but when he called Booker T the N word, that was a few years before, wasn't it? Because he had his hair.
I got to go. Let me see if I can pull up the clip.
I'm
Because
not
the
gonna
casino
say it,
was in.
but he walks up to Booker, or Booker
What
walks.
up, yeah, what up, my ninjas?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's what I was gonna say with my ninjas. He goes, "What's up, my ninjas?" And Booker's like, "Tell me he didn't just say that." Yeah, it couldn't have been 2007 because Booker was already he was still in WWE at the 2007. But was he
No, you're
hurt?
right. He was in full suit. Yeah, yeah, he did it. You're right. This might have been before. Yeah, this was before because he's in full suit, dapping up John Cena. Then goes to
So it was like late '05 because it was before Booker went back to SmackDown.
yeah.
Or no, was it on SmackDown? Now we're gonna have to Google this. Vince calls
Yeah.
Booker.
Vince
I don't
McMahon
even need to
says,
finish
"Damn,
that. I don't even need to finish that.
1.4 million views."
What? To be fair, this is also the same era where Kurt Angle said he wanted to have bestiality sex with Charmel. So like we
And you
knew
know
what
how
was going
funny,
on.
the clip is. I know somebody put that together. Like have him say what he did about Shawn Michaels and then immediately go to his TNA Info clip with the mouthpiece. Yeah.
Uh,
Yelling into the screen. That was the weirdest. Guess who signed with Impact Now promo trailer I've ever seen.
now, to be fair to Kurt, he meant to say interracial sex.
Oh my god,
It is
man.
technically better because bestiality it implies a whole nother thing about black people,
Oh
but it's
my
not a
god.
lot better.
God, man.
On the Vince McMahon scale, interracial sex is like a 6 out of the don't do that, and bestiality sex is a good solid 8.5. There's still worse things Kurt could have said in that moment. So yeah, this had to be late '05, early '06, because Cena was wearing the camo at this point. But Booker wasn't dressed as King Booker yet, so it couldn't have been the King of the Ring. And Peacock removed it too. I don't know if that's funny or not. But Vince then 2 years later, or like a year and a half, starts wearing a do rag because he's feuding with Bobby Lashley. So like, that's still racist. If he was feuding with like Hardcore Holly, okay. Maybe he just wants to wear something over his head that doesn't slide off all the time while he wrestles. But no, he's wearing it with the black dude. There's some connotations there. There's definitely some connotations there. So yeah, that was with the XPW's weekend show.
Which is equally as weird because didn't that subsequently Lashley end up leaving the company for racial backstage?
So the story goes that he was dating,
Crystal Marshall.
yes, and they have a child together.
Mhm.
And I think she was about to give birth, or was already pregnant, or was about to be pregnant. I can't remember which one. But that's about how long ago this was. And the story went, if I may be misremembering, so if I'm wrong, correct me. Michael P.S. Hayes and maybe somebody else made some derogatory comments to Crystal Marshall. Bobby Lashley was upset about it and basically said, they go or I go. And they're like, well, we're not letting them go. So he's like, then later. Now, there may be more to it that I may not, because, like, again, this is a 15-year-old story. So I don't remember the complete details of it. But that was how I remember it going, was in, like he was coming back from an injury, or was about to come back, and this was all going down. And apparently I don't think he was around at the time. So like this was happening when she was traveling to shows, but he wasn't. So when he came back, he's like, you need to do something. You need to make this right. And they didn't. So he's like, all right, then I'm gone. And he was gone for a bunch of years. But then, you know, as they always say, money does the talking and people do the walking. And Lashley came back despite his past issues with the same people that were still very much there when he re-signed with the company. Apparently, he wasn't that offended. Then again, he also stopped seeing Crystal Marshall, I don't know, 2010, 2011, 2012. So it may have been a similar situation to the Jerry Lawler quitting in like early 2001 when they basically fired the Cat and Lawler left in protest. But then when they separated, Lawler came back. To be fair, she did turn 30. And we know how Jerry Lawler just cannot stand anyone over the age of 29.
She turned 30 and he was offended.
How dare you? It's natural. I get older. But when I met you, you were 17. And that's not a lie. She was 17 when they met.
She qualified for AARP and he took it personally.
No, not even AARP. She was able to legally rent a car and he took it personally. What do you mean you're graduating? I didn't sign off for that. Yeah, I'm graduating college. College.
Like the point that you can just get a permit is the problem.
So good news, Jerry. I finally hit puberty. Nope. Lawler's a creepy fucking bastard.
That can draw.
Really well. Like, really well. Like, is that like a prerequisite for being able to draw? Like, do you have to be like a creep?
He's a creepy autiste.
Listen, jokes aside, he literally straight up met the Cat when she was in high school. And I don't know when they started their tit-a-tat, but I'm going to assume it was when she was in high school.
I know this might be taking a tad bit too far. When somebody says, Jerry, draw me like one of your French girls.
I promise you, the day Jerry Lawler dies, the accusations of grooming will come out hand over fist.
Oh, my God.
It is literally not even an inside joke. Everyone knows about his proclivities. They were talking, I don't even remember who it was. Somebody, I think it was like Ashley Massaro. It was like 2006, and somebody had just turned 25. Or like around that age. And like I think it was Ashley Massaro, but I could be wrong. And they're like, "Yeah, happy 25th birthday to whoever." And then I think it was Jim Ross goes, "Yeah, now we can officially say she's too old for the king." Like they're literally joking about his obsession with younger women. Oh, it's gonna be bad. When he dies, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be so bad. Oh, it's gonna be gross. Speaking of gross, let's talk about AEW. I don't have any issue with AEW. I don't know why I made that transition, but you know, I got to keep up the segue. So CM Punk is all but gone from AEW, and it sounds very much like an undoing of Tony Khan's own desires. I don't believe Tony Khan intentionally did this, but the way he set the company up prior to CM Punk's arrival pretty much said that this was always going to go the way it went. So basically what has happened in AEW is that the Clique runs the show. So if Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Sean Waltman, and Scott Hall basically had authority, not just negotiating power, that's what AEW would be right now. Because it very much sounds like the cliques in AEW don't like CM Punk because CM Punk is not a clique guy. CM Punk has always been very much a loner. As somebody who doesn't like a lot of people, I get that. People suck. I've once famously said, no, not all lives matter. Some people deserve to die. So, like, I'm very much in the bandwagon, like, yeah, people suck. So I get Phil's hesitation. But apparently the groups in AEW don't like the fact that CM Punk has significant drawing power. And they feel like there's two sides of this conversation. There's the facts and there's the feelings. Some believe that CM Punk doesn't draw enough for his reputation backstage. Like he's not very much a clicky guy, so they feel like if he's not going to be part of the group, so to speak, he needs to draw better. But as Dave Meltzer pointed out, that he's definitively the best draw they've ever had. But they're like, but he's not drawing bigger numbers than we thought he would. And it's like, well, you can only draw so much on one guy. Pro wrestling is a full team effort. If he's not drawing that well, then that's partly on the people he's working with. Because people show up for Punk, whether you like him or not. They show up for Punk. That's a historical fact. We've proven that several times over. So apparently the clicky nature in AW is why he won't be returning, allegedly. And I have to imagine that this has a lot to do with the fact that, you know, the Click, I shouldn't say the Click, the hell is those names? The Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, the Elite. Apparently the Elite has a lot of friends. The Elite stretches far and wide. You know, the Elite brings into Adam Page, who brings into the Dark Order, who brings into, I'm sure, other fucking people. And like, apparently all these groups... Now, I'm naming names, but I don't know these names are the names that are having issues. But I'm assuming these are the names having issues. And these groups are like, well, he's not, you know, one of us, so he needs to go. Even though we also have reports from a variety of non-click guys who are like, yeah, very approachable. If he wanted to give, you know, if somebody wanted advice or needed advice, CM Punk was there to give it to him. If somebody, you know, asked CM Punk, I think Ricky Starks asked him to like watch a match. He went back, you know, he instead of leaving early, he watched the match and gave Starks pointers. And it may not have been Ricky Starks. I think it was. But it was somebody. And, you know, like Danhausen's got a good relationship with him. A lot of guys have a good relationship with CM Punk. But it really does come off as a lot of people were upset that they were being pushed down the card for him. And I'm sitting here going, Jesus Christ, you man children. Most of you aren't draws. Like Adam Page? That dude's not a fucking draw. Like, what does he do? Cowboy shit. All right, cool. What if you think cowboy shit's lame? How does that appeal to like 90% of America? You know, like, I'm sorry. Pac's not putting people in seats. You know, they didn't have $1 million house with Pac headlining. They had one with CM Punk. You know, like, I'm sorry. Like, some of y'all are not headliners, and y'all need to, like, get the fuck over it. Now, some of that is on Tony Khan. Like, we've talked before about how they've done Penta L Zero Medio or Zero M or Dark Pentamon. Pentamon, Digital Monsters. Pentamon is the champion.
Now I want to see an evil Digimon going around breaking limbs.
Would it be Pentamon or would it be Digipenta?
I don't know, but I want both. I want because now I want him in Pokemon where the trainer like, this is my ace, and then he totally like brutalizes the other Pokemon and where the match gets him disqualified.
I mean,
I'm
it works. Like Phoenix.
I'm like, your Pokemon made the other Pokemon faint, and then he kept beating him. Fucking Pikachu gets fucking hospitalized.
Pikachu, you got Onyx, you got all the first generations, like with all the little X's over their eyes and like the little band-aids, like to show, and then you just hear boo.
Because obviously Penta would be humanoid, so he's breaking all these little arms and limbs.
Hitmonlee's trying to crawl, and you just keep hearing the Pentagon name.
Hitmonchan's gloves flying off and shit. Because he got him in the arm grab.
Machoke has 3 arms in slings, or Machamp, whatever one had 4 arms.
This is why we can't be in charge of television.
And he's just like sitting there, and Ash is like, Pentagon, come back. And Pentagon just looks over his shoulder and he goes, or not. You're chill, like you do you. That'd be fucking hilarious. But like, think about like Pentagon. That dude came off a world title run that really should have been a lot better than it was. Fucking Austin Aries. Goddamn Impact. Oh, that company. And like, he's this top dude. He's great. He's got this single star. Like, he's everything you want. And then they just turn him into a tag team guy with fucking Phoenix, some random dude who's like a rapper, I guess, in Mexico. I don't know what the fuck he does. And I think sometimes Pac. And they're called the Death Triangle. I'm like, well, why? You got two dudes from Mexico. Like, I think they're sons of a Mexican wrestler as well. So, like, they have a lineage. And they got some random Brit who has the charisma of the Blarney Stone. Like, the fuck are we doing here? That's some terrible ass booking. Like, that's like telling me there's a movie called The Candyman, and at no point do I get to sing the song or get candy. Yeah, it may work, but only because you got Tony Todd. And there's no Tony Todd
Like-
in the Death Triangle.
Like it's like it. His whole show is about jawbreakers. They're always almost getting.
Yeah. Although that movie Jawbreaker is a wild trip.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that one?
Yes, I think I've seen it once. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. So, it really does seem like this whole thing with AEW is jealousy, which I'm not surprised about, because think about it. Your EVPs went to have a violent confrontation with an employee. Like, I'm just sitting here saying, like, I don't think AEW is going out of business. They're making too much money. But Tony Khan really needs to sit down and look at how his company is structured. And hear me when I say this. None of this wasn't expected. Marcus, the day, you'll have to go back to, what was it, 2018, 2019 when AEW formed? You guys will have to go back to the day it formed. I think it's on YouTube. Find the show where it was whatever show came out that we did after the announcements that Cody, Kenny, the Bucks, and Brandy were going to be EVPs. And I said, to some degree, this is going to blow up in their faces. You cannot have the inmates running the asylum. You can't. You cannot have the talent making decisions. All of the issues in the AEW are coming from the issue of the talent running the organization. Look at the Lakers. I don't think they've won a game yet this year. Why haven't they won a game yet? Because LeBron wanted to play with Westbrook. And now Westbrook's in LA, and Westbrook is he's one of the worst jump shooters in the history of the NBA. Cannot hit a shot. I am a better jump shooter than Russell Westbrook. I swear to God, you put me in a game of horse where all you can do is shoot from outside of the paint, I will win. I will win that. He made that choice though. He's like, I want star power, so get me Carmelo, get me Westbrook. And now they're a terrible ass team that nobody wants to deal with, because why would anyone want Russell Westbrook when he's old and busted down? I feel like, Will Smith going, you had the what was it, the old and busted, and I have the new hotness. So like the NBA is doing the new hotness, and fucking LA is doing the old and busted. This is what happens when you let the stars have the say. Same thing's happening in AEW. You cannot have Kenny Omega making decisions. You cannot have the Young Bucks making decisions. Half of the reason why guys become disenfranchised with AEW is because the people making the decisions. And it's not just Tony Khan. The issue is that Tony Khan only talks to the EVPs because the EVPs are constantly pulling out his ear. He needs to get rid of these dudes. And if that means Kenny Omega has to retire or go to WWE or go to New Japan, wherever, let him. He's not moving the needle for you. If that means the Young Bucks are going to go to NXT and do the same match for 30 years, let them, because they're fucking boring as shit anyway. You have to let the talent shine. There's a reason why people are asking for the releases. There's a reason people are not happy with being in AEW. And it's not because they're not just being used. It's not just because of the booking. It's because the inmates have too much power. You can't let a bunch of people in psychiatric care make the decisions on their own mental health. They're there because they can't do that. Wrestlers are in a company because they can't run a business. If they could run a business, they wouldn't need to bastardize their bodies. There's a reason why once somebody gets legit and like actually starts making six figures outside of wrestling, they don't go back outside of like an appearance. Because there's no reason to. Unless you're fucking Tito Santana and you're 74, you're a retired principal and you still like to wrestle sometimes. He's a different beast entirely. Like Tito Santana is just, that man is purity. That man needs to be protected at all costs. He's the anti-Ric Flair. So like, what's going on in AEW? Like, if they lose CM Punk to all this drama, oh, this company is just shooting
Yeah,
itself in the foot.
and be honest, like, look, Snake Ross at the head. We know the saying, and even with this MVP conversation, essentially Tony Khan is the head, and I don't think you get a better depiction on, to your point about the inmates running the asylum with how CM Punk basically ran over Tony Khan at that post scrum where
Mm-hmm.
he went off. Tony looked like a deer in the headlight, constantly watching the car almost hit him. And he didn't, and he couldn't move, and it was real sad and disappointing watching Punk. Refreshing because that stuff probably needs probably a lot of other people that probably was thinking what he was thinking. They just didn't say it out loud or in the way that certainly not in the way that he said it. But the funniest part about that was Tony Khan's reactions because he was sitting there, he couldn't do a damn thing about it, and that's bad because he came off more so like a mid tier publicist than the owner of the company. Um, but yeah, Snake Ross at the head, man. You got to put your foot down, take charge, and obviously you could not take action when that fight broke out or whatever happened behind the scenes. And that happened, but after all that what Punk said on that scrum, I'm not surprised. I mean, he already said it. He's too old for it. Doesn't feel like going through it. Um, I don't think he's hurting for money. He's certain probably not hurting for money after what I'm sure he got paid by EW. And like you said, he draws, but for me, that momentum of him being back was always eventually going to run out anyway. Specifically, if he wasn't top 10 in the ring, and to me, he was just okay in the ring. Of course, that situation, that subject matter can vary depending on who you ask, but he was never exciting to me. And I never went out of my way to watch CM Punk match if I didn't have to, if it wasn't tied to a big feud on a big show or something. I just wasn't. I just don't click with him like that as a performer. But like I said, he had one of the greatest returns of all time. That's not debatable. But yeah, Khan got to put his foot down. I guess he asserted it there, and he certainly needs to do it on social media as well because you're talking about CM Punk. You got somebody like Sam Guevara running around starting ass whoopings he can't finish. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know who think it's a good idea to get into it with Kingston at all. I don't. That man don't put on ass for nobody. I don't know if he. I don't know if he. You put a gun to his head and he couldn't be fake. Um, and freaking Andrade, you know, you don't look like somebody that will hold back on putting hands on somebody. And I don't think too many people like that kid. I think he's grown increasingly annoying. And that's even after all the stuff that happened with the whole Sasha of it all and whatever other offenses he's had. So he's grown increasingly more annoying, which works for the heel persona. But I think he kind of is coming off as an a-hole in real life, obviously, and he is rubbing the wrong people the wrong way. And to be fair, talking about Khan putting his foot down on social media about other people, he sucked on social too. So he needs to put himself and his employees in timeout on a consistent basis.
And like the thing with Sammy is this isn't new.
Yeah.
I can't remember the year. It was before he had a stint in Impact. So like what was that? 2018. He did the Ultimate X or the Ultimate X Cup or whatever it was, where he faced off
Yeah.
with Desmond Xavier in the finals. Before that, the year prior, he got in some hot water, and like I cannot find the info, but he basically mocked somebody who had died, and I think it was like a referee, and he was just so just vile, and he had this nasty reputation. Then he talks about raping Sasha Banks, and he's kind of a racist. Like this is, let's see. So here's the headline. It's AEW wrestler Sammy Guevara mocked black women. Sammy Guevara. This is from 2020, so when he was in the inner circle. Earlier today, we note that he said in 2016 he wanted to assault Banks, but in the same video, he was found making fun of black women. So this is gonna be interesting. The quote, the article says verbatim, the interviewer and Guevara were discussing their mothers during the podcast when Guevara said that, quote, bro, your mom's black, so fuck her, right? So this is Sammy Guevara. He thinks rape is funny, and this is like the same time period where he was mocking an indie referee. Like this is like the same exact year, 2016. So like he was just all in himself in this time span. And then, there's the allegations of him cheating on his then fiance with Ty Conti. I don't know how much that is true. And I really do hate the idea of, well, that's a personal matter. It's not. It's societal. If we let people run around doing, as you would say, skullduggery things, then what the fuck kind of society are we having here, folks? Like, we can't pick and choose when we're going to be moralistic. I believe infidelity is wrong. I don't have like, if you're dating me and you're like, I'm not that attracted to you anymore, I think there's another guy I want to pursue, I'll be like, all right, you do you. But if we're dating and I find out you cheated on me, that's a different reaction entirely.
Yeah.
And when you're accused of infidelity, now granted, the three parties involved have all denied it, but then again, if there's a monetary persuasion from Guevara to his ex, like if he's like, listen, if you just don't tell people, I'll give you like 20 grand. Real easy to get somebody on your side at that point. So, like, I see all this with Guevara, and it's like, it's like with Randy Orton. There's too many goddamn fires for us not to sit here and say there's a fucking problem. Again, we're talking about Sammy Guevara because he fucked with Kingston, and then he fucked with Andrade, and he's going to fuck with somebody else, and then he's threatening to quit the company. It's like, why is Tony Khan putting up with this little D-bag? He's not moving the needle, and he's not that talented either. You know what it is, Marcus? I want to know how much we're on the same wavelength brain-wise. Why is Tony Khan refusing to fire Sammy Guevara? Why do you think? It's a thinker, I know. I feel like you know the answer. I didn't lose you, did I? No, you're still there. Mars may have had to step away for a moment. I do want to hear if he and I have the same idea on why Sammy Guevara's not been fired yet, because there's too many incidents. The Sasha comments, the fight with Kingston, the fight with Andrade, the constant shit talking on Twitter. None of it's good. None of it's good. And when it comes to Punk, he's probably gone. And there are talks.
Yeah.
You're back. Okay. So I don't know if you heard me. I asked you if one of the same brain length weight. One of those is fucking right.
Brainwave.
There it is. Why do you think Tony Khan hasn't fired Sammy Guevara yet? I want to know if we're on the same page on this one. Because I have a theory. I want to know if our theories are similar.
I think it's partly one thing, and we've talked about this, and it's been touched on a lot of times. You benefit in that company when you're friends with that guy.
Yes and no.
What do you think?
We're close, but I have a different.
Yeah, and you have if specifically, you looking back on certain names and people who's gotten into it with, obviously Swole and some other people who might not have been the closest to. If he deems your talent in a certain way, it's unfortunate because he might not be the best judge of straight up and down in-ring talent, because as much wrestling as he's watched, he's still not gotten in there and, done the thing. He might not be the best judge of it, but he does dictate who works there and who doesn't. So, if you're kind of in with the guy and he likes, what you're doing. And then to be fair, Sammy Guevara puts on the show. The kid doesn't have a problem putting his body on the line and doing all kinds of, flippy-dippy stuff. I'm sure sends certain people through the roof like Cornette and what have you. But yeah, I think he buys into. I think he likes the kid, and I think he I think he thinks the bad guy thing works for the company. I think he think it works for the character. I think it's one of those things where like no press is all press is good press sort of deal. And I think he thinks Sammy is the guy that pops. That's I think he looks at him, feels about him as a character. I guess the way MJF feels about himself, talking about like a generational talent almost. But he could also have something on Tony. Who knows? That could be a thing too.
I'm of the mindset that Sammy is being protected by the people backstage. I think
Jericho
the
and
Chris
Omega.
Jerichos and the Kenny Omegas and the other guys are fine with it. And I have no reason not to believe that, because we've seen time and time again in wrestling that if you're friends with somebody,
Yeah.
you can get away with a lot. And I think that's exactly what's going on here. I think a lot of people are standing for Sammy.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to bite them in the ass.
Yeah. It's the standing for the kid. He's uber talented. He's young. I'm pretty sure that's coming up a lot. He's young. Remember how it was when we were young and this, that, and the third. I didn't get it. He ain't getting into half the stuff we got off into. And this is sans drugs,
Mm-hmm.
or is it? We don't know. So yeah, I do think, to your point, yeah, obviously Jericho. I think he's hugely benefited from being with Jericho. Although with the hot water he's gotten himself into, he ironically can't go with the whole sex gods thing because obviously hit a little bit too much on the head there. But yeah, I think, like you said, I think it's both. But I think somebody like Andrade is far more valuable, specifically if you book him properly and put him in the right situations. But Sammy he also has like company equity there. He's put on the matches. He's been to the shows. He's there when other people aren't. And he fills spots that a lot of people probably wouldn't do, and probably, they probably deem him as a multi-tool player because he'll just fit where they need him to fit. So, but it's unfortunate because he keeps this up and he's going to be in the hospital because he's going to have somebody's foot permanently down his throat.
I did it, Marcus. I found the fucking article.
There it is.
Let's see.
The internet never forgets.
Oh, no. Not the internet. Us. I found it on our website. Because I know what the fuck I'm doing. All right. So let's see. I guess we'll decline all. Nope, that's the wrong thing. What did I save it under? Is it work related? Does it work? Hang on. I'll find it. Work related. Let's see. Wait, hang on. So I'm using two different computers, and I have to update something. I guess I'll just fucking type it out. Like, I don't even give a shit. Actually, we're gonna do the same thing. How I found it, just on a different computer. Because now that I know where it is, it's easy to get to. So once we get that, I can pull it up. Because I don't want there to be any misinterpretations here. I don't want anyone to misconstrue the situation. Let's see, what was this? MLW talent affecting. Yeah, I completely forgot that Sammy Guevara was supposed to be in MLW at one point. All right, here it is. All right, so this is from. When the fuck is this from? 2014? This is even beforehand. This is like when he was 18, babyface Sammy. So basically, this is hot-headed Texas indie rising star blows top, burns bridges after championship coronation by Bowie v. Ibarra. A stunning bit of controversy erupted at the Inspire Pro events In Their Blood at the Marcella Hall in Austin, Texas. Rising Texas star Sammy Guevara was crowned the first ever Inspire Pro J Crown champ in front of a large group of Austin wrestling fans. But what started as a great victory celebration degenerated into a dark vibe as Guevara took the mic and ran down the promotion that purposely gave Guevara a start in wrestling, River City Wrestling, one of San Antonio's best pro wrestling promotions. Guevara put the promotion on blast, singling out the promoter, Brandon Oliver, for overlooking him. It was a strange rant that has some unfortunate ramifications for both promotions. The rant was made known to Oliver very quickly, who took to social media to share his disappointment and discuss at what he felt was a betrayal. Inspire Pro officials stated that the moment was not part of their plans and was a decision made by the indie star. So here's another example of Sammy Guevara going off on his own. The rant was the fault was quick, as RCW publicly cut ties with the Inspire Pro company and continuing on with their own. The writer goes on to say, I'm not going to pretend to know all the facts. I'm just going to respond as a fan who has watched the sad circumstances play out. I felt the rant was very inappropriate for several reasons. Number one, very few people, dare I say nobody in Austin, Texas, cares about a promotion outside of the city of Austin. Second, as mentioned, the tantrum severed a delicate relationship from Inspire Pro, was taking great plans to develop with RCW and perhaps other promotions in Texas. Leadership in Inspire wanted to take the non-traditional approach and support other indie organizations in the spirit of cooperation to nurture the Texas wrestling scene as a whole. On the same note, RCW fans of Guevara were disappointed to hear the news. Some folks commented that Guevara was their favorite wrestler at their family favorite. This included kids who enjoyed his work. Now they won't see him in San Antonio again for a long while. The event marked the announcement of Inspire Pro Wrestling's inclusion of the National Wrestling Alliance. This is before Billy Corgan bought the NWA, and it was still doing the whole territory thing. Some of the top brass from the NWA was in attendance, and though it's been made emphatically clear by the members of the Inspire Pro management that Guevara's actions were his own, it was a really bad lead-in to the announcement, which came soon after, as well as a potential bad first impression for the NWA boss. And fourth, is he good? Sure. Let's see. I think there's more to this, too. Here's hoping. So there's more to the story that I guess came out eventually. But so this was 2014, and he ruined an entire promotion just by being Sammy. I mean, you gotta give the kid some credit. Like, he's incredibly capable of ruining things. There's more that I know there's more. I just can't seem to find it right now. I'm gonna have to keep looking, but it's not gonna be tonight. Not even unless I get really lucky. So Guevara's an ass. Tony Khan needs to get rid of him. Neither's gonna happen. Well, what are we gonna do about it? Marcus, I think it's time we get a little spooky though. I'm going to use a photo of Mandy Rose because I don't feel like going through a bunch of photos and videos for the last part of the show. We are going to talk about the 10 matches that scared us the most. This wasn't the original idea for last week's show, but we didn't remember what we said about last week's show for this week's show. So we just made up a new one. The qualifications are it could be either legitimately scary, like, ooh, no, I'm scared. Or it can be, oh my God, he's dead. He literally got killed in this match. Kind of scary. So either real scary or horror scary, I guess is the way to kind of emphasize it. So Marcus, I will let you go first with your 5 picks. What do we got?
Okay, let's see. You just want me to rattle them off 5 to 1?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Number 5, I'm going with the bloodbath that was the I Quit match between John Cena and JBL. That's number 5. Obviously, go watch that match for yourself, and you will either turn away or just try to see if Cena's going to die from blood loss. You want to say something?
No, I was going to say that that was one of those matches that kind of like made you think, yeah, if someone dies tonight,
yeah,
no one's going to be surprised.
Yeah, I'm going to, number 4 for me, I'm going to go with a creatively risky affair that was AJ Styles versus Rhino on Elevation X.
That's a good one.
Yeah, yeah. Again, just go watch it. I'm going with number 3. I'm going with
Full Metal Mayhem in Impact, Lucha Bros versus LAX. The match where Phoenix almost died again. Uh, Quite brutal affair, but literally Phoenix almost died off a ladder. Not good. Um, Number two, another match that ironically features Phoenix, but this time in the halls of in the walls of should I say in the streets of Boyle Heights in the temple when he faced off with Mil Muertes in Grave Consequences. Another match where you thought Phoenix would die. And that was two. Number one, because it felt like you watched the chaotic. It almost felt like this video was live when you watched it, and just the stuff that was in it. It was a very unique time as an Impact fan. I'm going with the final deletion between the Hardy Brothers.
Why did that one give you the spooks? Is it because of Matt Hardy's persona?
It felt like a live taping of Jackass with no rehearsal. Like when obviously you had the acting part of it, but when literally he set off and shot fireworks at him, he was, oh shit! Like it was spectacularly ridiculous in all the craziest ways, and so much of that stuff could have went left. But what they were doing, and they're already like broken up, damn near bones and brittle, and just even with you knowing it was taped, it was just like they really did this, and it could have just that fireworks part alone could have went left, you know. So yeah.
So my first one is actually one of yours. It was the Elevation X match between Styles and Rhino. But you can also add Storm and Rhino. And that one may have a little bit more to it to me because Styles was a former gymnast. There we go. And so, like, him falling from a great height, not ideal by any means. But you almost feel more comfortable with him because he's used to articulating his body in specific poses during specific moments so he can fall and land the safest. That wasn't the case for James Storm. Although I will say the first match that Rhino did, because Rhino was in both for some reason, the least coordinated guy. Go figure. The spot that I remember most from the first Elevation X though was Styles climbing under the trusks and like laying underneath the platform. And say what you will about the Vince Russo era of wrestling in TNA. Rhino went full 1980s, and the crowd ate it up. They were so hot for this match, and Rhino started like pointing, and they're cheering. Then he points down, and then he starts pointing down, like they're going nuts for him, and Rhino then like sneaks down and grabs Styles by his throat and pulls him back. It was great. It was fantastic. Although I'm pretty sure both guys took a excuse me, I had to sneeze. Took a gore on the Elevation X itself. So that was
yeah.
That was scary.
Yeah.
So that one's definitely on mine. I'm going to go with the two matches that are on this list for obvious reasons that had nothing to do with wrestling. When we texted each other today about like what the idea was, I gave you an example. And that example is actually on my list. It was the 2015 edition of Impact Wrestling from January. I think it was like January 10th or so was when they filmed it. I don't remember when it aired. Maybe like the 15th or 2 weeks later. But it was a cage match. If I remember correctly, it was the Wolves versus the Hardys. I want to say. Let me see if I can find it. It was the Wolves versus the Hardys, I want to say, in a cage match. Never trust non-wrestling sources to talk about wrestling. So it was in New York. I think it was the Hardys versus James Storm's group at the time. is what it was. So I think it was like Mahabali Shera and James Storm versus the Hardys, or they were out there. I'll just pull it up in Cage Match. We know the date it happened. I can be better at my job, and I don't get paid for it. So basically, as I find the details, they were having a cage match, and Jeff was on the top of the cage. And I don't remember what exactly happened. Okay, so I was right. It was the Hardy Boys versus the Wolves, and somebody interfered. No, I was wrong, but right. It was the Revolution. It was Abyss and James Storm versus the Hardy Boys for the tag titles. And Jeff was on top of the cage, and somebody, I don't remember who, like, kind of hit Jeff with, like, I don't remember if it was like a punch, a kick, or a weapon. It may have been like a kendo stick or something. And Jeff, took the shot, and then he leaned over and he fell off the cage. But he fell back first and on top of the steel steps and hit his head and knocked himself the fuck out. And he had to be taken in the back, and everyone's like, Jeff, you're insane. What are you doing? Now the funny thing is, or the sick thing is, he was only gone for like a month because he wrestled Abyss earlier in the night, I think. Yeah, he wrestled Abyss earlier in the night for another taping, and this was supposed to be for Lockdown 2015, and then he was back wrestling by February 15th, so like a little over a month later. And it people were generally concerned that he was dead. Like, it was a sick bump. And that's the kind of person Jeff Hardy is. He's just a weird dude. The other match was actually from 2022. And I was scared, Marcus. I watched all 35 minutes of this match thinking, he's going to die. This is how he dies. This is Randy the Ram Robinson in real life. And of course, I'm talking about Ric Flair's last match. I mean, dude's 70-something with a pacemaker, bad hip, alcohol issues that he's not addressing, and yeah, he was gassed 2 minutes in. So, and then he faked a heart attack, which scared everyone, which wasn't part of the show. Then his daughter got into it with somebody, I think it was with Karen Jarrett. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ, this is just what are we doing here? I don't know anyone who watched that match who didn't think, yeah, Ric Flair could die here. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. It didn't need to happen. It was just rough. Oof. So my other two matches that made me scared for very different reasons, more along the lines of the Jeff Hardy situation, but these matches were fantastic. The first one is from 2005. I want to say it was Turning Point. It was it was Abyss versus Sabu in the first ever TNA Barbed Wire Massacre match. Marcus, I came into this match not knowing what the hell to expect. I left even more confused. Because I'm thinking, like, they're going to gimmick the barbed wire. They're going to make sure that everyone's protected. No, these motherfuckers were jumping into barbed wire for their fun. Like, they're like, yeah, this seems like a good idea. To the point where Abyss has these tattoos on his arm. And after this match, you can see the permanent scars on his arm that cut through his tattoo because of this match. And it was ridiculous. It was ludicrous. And with the fact that Sabu is just a crazy son of a bitch, I really thought that one of these guys were going to get caught in the barbed wire, and that'd be all she wrote. And yet, it's still not the scariest moment that I've ever had watching a wrestling match. Now, I've never fallen for the, Firefly a House of Fun nonsense, or the Sister Abigail nonsense, or even the Inferno matches. Like, those don't scare me. I don't get scared for those gimmicky matches. What did scare me, however, was a year prior at Turning Point 2004. I think it was Turning Point 2004. It may have been, was it Turning Point 2004? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. So, stop me if you heard this one before, Marcus. America's Most Wanted, Chris Harris and James Storm, are taking on Triple X. Christopher Daniels and Elite Skipper. It's a cage match. The loser has to break up. They will never again be a tag team in the history of wrestling until 2007 when they become a tag team again. And there was a spot in the match where I want to say it was James Storm was on top of the cage, and Elite Skipper came up to the top of the cage, but he was on because this is when TNA had 6 sides, and it was called TNA. And I think it was Storm in one corner, and Elite came up in the corner most adjacent to it, like most directly next to it, and he climbs up, and my heart skipped 1,000 beats as Elite Skipper walked on top of basically a chain link fence cage. Like, it's not like one of those WWE cages where they have like the truss on top so you can sit on it comfortably. There was a bar and chain fencing. That was the top of the cage. And Elite Skipper went step over step over step over step and hit this top of the cage Hurricane Rana. And I want to say it was Storm. It could have been Harris. And I swear to God, I thought they were dead. I thought they were dead, Marcus. I sat there going, he's fucking dead, Marcus. He's dead. To this day, I've never had a moment that's scared me more than that moment right there. And all you gotta do is just type, the walk in the Elite Skipper, and you're gonna get it. In fact, I'm gonna do that right now just so I can be a little bit more on top of the details.
No, yeah.
So it was Chris Harris, and he was on top, and he was being held there by Christopher Daniels. And Skipper just walked over and hit a fucking Hurricane Rana as Daniels held Harris in place. And to this day, it's the most insane. I would say this moment is more insane than Mick Foley's Hell in the Cell. I really would. This was intense. I feel like you wanted to say something. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's just, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, I think a lot of my, it's interesting talking about the contrast not list, because I feel like your number one's definitely going to be like, and that's part of the quote of this segment. My heart skipped 1,000 beats. That was great. But yeah, like I said, my number one ended up being Cinematic Jackass, right? Because even the stupid as that stuff is, you still like it's like a cringe scare almost. But yeah, you're not wrong. And specifically with you seeing what you seen prior to that, I mean, essentially the wrestling world and people obviously that were there saw a man literally fall to his death. R.I.P. Owen Hart. So when you watch falls like that, and then you watch it off of moves like that, even if it was intentional, it's just like that was insane. Like, I don't know if this is coming out. I don't want to spoil nothing, but like, that bump that Styles took in that with that first X Division match.
Mm-hmm. You mean the Ultimate X, Elevation X?
Yeah,
match?
the Ultimate X. That if he didn't turn his body in the way that he did, he'd be a myth right now. So it's stuff like that. The fall is always, it might not even have nothing to do with being a hardcore scary match, but it's moments like that where it's like, what in the entire fuck is wrong with these people?
So, that's that's the line. He'd be a myth. And he would have been too. Like, that's the crazy, man. That's the craziest thing is some of these moments shouldn't exist just because of the sheer stupidity it takes to come up with the idea to do it. Like, someone literally thought, what would be a great idea? Let's put 2 ropes across the top of the ring, and then we have guys jostle each other in the center of this ring 10 feet in the air. Let's see what happens. And then somebody goes, let's put let's put a walkway on top of it. Let's get even dumber. And then Styles went, I can make it stupider. People are just, and like, they're insane. Like, Jim Cornette, for all of his travesties in life, literally once said to himself, yeah, I'll take a bump off the scaffolding. That seems like a good idea. Turned out it wasn't. He destroyed his leg. But still. And, like, that's not all. Like, think about ECW. They had scaffolding matches where people went through a dozen tables. People have been set on fire. Like, didn't Mick Foley and Edge nearly kill themselves by, going through a fire table at WrestleMania 2006?
Yep. Speared through a flaming table.
Abyss set himself on fire at Bound for Glory 2000 and what was that, 2008, 2009?
Yeah, what he put his body through with that company, he damn near should have been the first Hall of Fame pick.
You really should have. And truthfully, that man should have made more money in that company than he probably did. Because that man was like, hey, let's do something stupid. And
He
they're
should
like,
have a T.
yes.
He should have a T. He should still have an impact pension.
He really should. He really fucking should. All right. Anything else you want to talk about before we 22 Skidoo?
No, nothing else popped up. Oh, that was it. That was it. That's a good collection of matches to actually go back and watch too. I'm definitely go back and watch it because the Elix Skipper. It's funny because after that happened, it's almost like Elix Skipper became a myth.
I mean, right? Although, to be fair, he survived in that company for like another 3.5 years off that spot alone.
Yeah, it's permanently in the highlight reel, man. The only thing that's more associated with highlight packages is that great man's voice that we lost.
Yeah. He was the sole reason. I shouldn't say the sole reason. But he made a very bland, very mediocre Sting package for Bound for Glory 06 so much more intense. I forget his name. I feel it was like Barry something. Oh, but he had a great voice, and I don't know if it was just him being a great actor or if he had a real passion for it, but the way he spoke about it, the way he spoke about the product,
He reminded me of Keith David, but in a more elevated sense.
Well, I always thought he kind of reminded me more of Ving Rhames because remember when Arby started the "We got the meats"?
Oh, yeah.
Remember I texted you, I'm like, is that the dude from TNA? And you're like, no, that's Ving Rhames. I'm like, oh my god.
Gotcha. No, yeah, man, that was some years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was yeah, you're right. That's crazy. He does kind of have, yeah, because he has that flair like Ben Rames has.
because it's
But he
that
got
deep
like a
guttural kind of octave, but then he flares it with his enunciation at the end of sentences.
exactly. All three of them got that like you recognize the deepness in their voice. Like you can't mistake. That's either him, Ben Rames, somebody like Keith. Like they got those voices, man. Like Tony Todd's in that tier too.
Oh yeah. Some real great voiceover artists. Just truly phenomenal.
Barry Scott, there it is.
Barry Scott. Okay. Did I say Barry? What did I say? Was that
Yeah, you said Barry, just you needed the whole name. Yeah,
Okay.
Barry Scott.
That's good at least. I got half of it. All right. So, with that being said, I think we're good. I think because I don't see anything else on the old banner in terms of anything that's happened. So I think we can wrap it here. Let's do our rundown. You can find Marcus on Twitter, ParadoxKid, ParadoxKid.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, over on Twitter at True Penny Show. That's TruePennyShow. All the links to their podcasts go up on their Twitter account, so it's just easier if you go to their Twitter account. You can find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, ChadNerdCorp, and on Instagram at Chad's Photo Hut, Chadsphotohut. The website's realnerdcorp.com. I think next week we should try simulcasting with the YouTube, but I got to figure out how to actually stream on YouTube first. So, yeah. But I think that might be a way to go about increasing the brand a little bit. So we'll see how that works. We will be recording on Sunday next week, barring the Browns game. Marcus, if the Browns game is on Sunday night, we will either need to record on Saturday or skip this week. Or record on Tuesday.
Just text Browns and I'll know.
Okay.
Or Browns, I'm out. Yeah.
So, because I got to cover the Browns for my job. So, like, if the Browns are playing on Sunday night, I'm pretty sure they are, but they may be Monday night. I can't do the show because it'll go until about 11. But we could record Tuesday or we could record Saturday. So, like, we don't necessarily need to cancel. We just need to finagle more days, if you will. But we're not doing it on Monday. Like Halloween, Marcus and I are taking the night off, and we're going to be watching our own spooky fests, if you will. So, plus it's the end of my work month, so I get to finally be done for a day, and I'm very much looking forward to being done with October. This has been a rough month on me. My schedule is all kinds of fucked up. So, For Marcus Green, I'm Chad Portal. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus, take us home.
Good night, me.